Okay, hang on. Let's not do anything rash. Let's not take action too quickly, because when we take action out of that desperate, like something has to change, I have to change something. When we take action out of that kind of desperate place, it's not going to necessarily be the right action because it hasn't really come from the depths. It's coming from up here, from the panic. And you don't typically want to make big life decisions from a position of panic.
2, 1, 0.
Hi and welcome to the show. This is Orion. Today I have with me two-time TEDx speaker Marie Elizabeth Mali. Marie Elizabeth helps midlife women get clear on what they want next with her step-by-step passion body activation system that rebirth their passion, purpose, and joy. She has a master's degree in traditional Chinese medicine and has worked in the wellness space for over 30 years. In this episode, we talked about what it is like to look into the eye of a whale and experience consciousness. She explained her 5 female archetypes, and you can learn about their shadow parts and their light part. And I found that I was relating to all 5 of them, but she also has got a quiz that can tell you which archetype you are. And that was a very beautiful, interesting piece of information, especially for me because I'm also into female archetypes and all that good stuff. So it really resonated with me. We also talked about aging and how can we be radiant and feel fully embodied and fully beautiful and fully in our wisdom, no matter how young or old we are. And that was another piece that I really, really like and somehow shows up a lot in my life lately in different conversations, how women become, like when they get older, they start feeling invisible or maybe not worthy, not good enough, and how they can create a strong, powerful, beautiful identity for themselves. So they are magnets to all the beautiful things that life can offer. And instead of being invisible, feeling beautiful and visible and seen. Because why not? Who decided that when a woman ages, she needs to hide in her home and just knit and play poker? This is not the type of person that I want to be when I grow up. I want to be a trailblazer. Because why not? I want to let my light shine, and my life shine. I want my life to shine. Because life is so beautiful. And every moment counts. And we need to make the best of every moment in life. And now, without further ado, on to the show. Hi, Marie Elizabeth. Thank you so much for being here and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Orion. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm happy to be hanging out with you. We met, what was it, a week and a half ago?
Yeah, it was pretty recent, right?
Yeah, and a very, very cool mastermind. And it was super amazing, like having conversations with you and getting to know you. So I'm excited about today. Before we begin, can you share a little bit about yourself and about your passion?
You bet. So I've been in the healing space for over 30 years. I'm from New York originally, but I've lived a lot in California. Right now I live in Mexico. And I've been working with clients around their health, their personal development, their healing. And lately, I'm focusing very much on midlife women and really helping them. I'm passionate about helping women reframe what it is to grow older, what it is to live a turned on, lit up, aligned life, And so I've developed a whole new body of work around that. Another part of my passion is actually underwater photography. So I took this photo of a mama and a baby whale in Tonga.
So beautiful.
Thank you. So I love having that in the frame because every time I look at them, I just get happy. I love whales a lot.
Aw.
So that's another aspect of my passion. I love going to conferences and things like that and meeting amazing people like you. So I also really enjoyed our conversation. So that was,
Whales and dolphins are very close to me as totem animals.
they're very special. Like to get to look at directly into a whale's eye is an incredible experience. Yeah. And they can feel exactly where you are in the water.
Can you take me diving?
I would love to take you diving. Yeah, that's part of why we moved to Mexico was to be a bit closer and able to dive in the areas near Los Cabos where we live.
What is it like to be near a whale?
It's very still and present. I mean, I don't think this is going to sound too woo for you, but it's like you can feel the consciousness. It's this expansive, still, watching, very present experience. And one of my favorite moments was actually in Tonga, not this particular whale, a different one, where the current was.
Where is Tonga?
Tonga it's near Fiji. It's near, you have to go through New Zealand typically. It's in the South Pacific.
Okay.
And they migrate there. So humpback whales, you can swim with them in Tonga. And you can swim with them in the Dominican Republic because the ones that live up in Massachusetts during this, Massachusetts to Maine in the summer, they migrate down between the Dominican Republic and the Turks and Caicos in the winter. And so you can go swim with them there or you can swim with them in Tonga. And this whale, I was getting pushed into her by the current. And I was trying to sort of backpedal to get away from her because you don't want to get too close. You don't want to bang into a whale. It's not a good look. So I'm trying to furiously finning backwards to try to get out of her way. And she took her pectoral fin, which is this big fin sticking off her body. She took it and basically, as she was moving, she went over my head and my camera and back down the other side so that she wouldn't hit me.
Oh my goodness.
Now, for perspective, I'm like a buoy in the water, like one of those round buoys in the water next to an ocean liner. That's the kind of size perspective we're talking about. And she knew exactly where I was, and she lifted her fin to not hurt me. And then when she got past me, I saw she had also turned her tail away from me until she got past me, and then she turned it back straight, again, not wanting to hit me with her tail. So like this is the level of presence and care and sentience, like feeling that they have.
Wow. And when you look at the eye of a whale, what do you feel? What do you see?
Time stops for me. I just feel like I'm meeting another present being fully. Like I will, once the eye is near, I'll typically take my camera down. If there's an opportunity to look at each other, I'll often not keep shooting. I'll put my camera down so we can meet. And it's always felt very friendly and still and present and aware. Like there's an awareness that's quite beautiful to be around. Would that humans had that kind of awareness more often.
Let's talk about
So back to passion.
passion. But this is this is just another way of experiencing passion and presence, because passion is all about being present.
100%.
Learning that from a whale. That whale, she knew exactly where she was in space.
And she knew where I was in space, this tiny thing.
She was so aware of her body. That's a mama whale, right?
100% mama whale. Yeah, she had a baby. Yeah, she had a baby on the other side of her.
She was protective as if she was protecting her baby.
Exactly. She was protective of me, which really, well, it made me cry, to be honest, to realize that she was protecting me like that. It wasn't that I didn't expect that or that I thought whales were somehow not conscious, but to actually directly experience how conscious, wow, and I think it's also this could go in an interesting direction for the conversation because consciousness might be in front of us, but we can miss it if we're not present, right? So part of the meeting is also me being willing to show up present and inviting a connection. And this is a lot of what I teach women. For the past 8 years until this year, I was coaching women and couples primarily around relationship. And this year I've really shifted to working directly with women to step into their wisdom and their passion when they hit that moment in life where it's like, what is this life I'm living? It's not even mine, and I don't even know who I am anymore.
When does that happen to women? Does it happen a few times throughout their lives, or is there?
I think it can happen a few times. I think some of the big moments are if they're moms, when their kids go to college and all of a sudden there's room in the house, the kids are no longer home, is a big moment because all of a sudden there's space. It's like you're being liberated from all the ferrying the kids here and there and the social things and the school things, and all of a sudden there's space. And I find a lot of women in that moment struggle because they're like, well, I know I should want to do something with my time, but I kind of have forgotten. Sometimes women forget their passions because they're so absorbed in the caretaking, or they're so absorbed in the business if they're an entrepreneur or an executive. They're so absorbed in making the thing run, and having the kids live well, that often there can be this moment where there's suddenly space and then they don't recognize themselves anymore. I was speaking to a woman just before this recording, actually, and she described when she got divorced, she had to learn, she didn't know who she was. She had adapted so fully to married life that she didn't know who she was as a single person anymore. Like, what do I even like to eat?
Wow.
Right? Because it had been so family oriented and she had, done everything like what the family wants. And it's like, wow, what colors do I like to wear for me? What foods do I like to eat for me? What music do I want to listen to for me? It's such a huge moment for many women, and it can happen in our 40s. It can happen for some women maybe earlier, and for some women in their 50s, and some even later, right? But there's typically a moment where we realize, oh, there's more here for me to learn about myself so that I can actually show up in my life more present and real and true. And getting to look a whale in the eye is one way to access that.
Is there a way to prevent this from happening? Like, how can I, like, for example, I have a 4-year-old. We are very much, like, we have a very special connection. I don't go anywhere without him.
He's amazing.
And yeah, my life, my identity is like being his mom. And yes, I do my podcast and my coaching, not as much as before. And yet my identity is very much connected to my child and being a wife and being a, like, what do you do when, God forbid, one of those identities change? Is there a preventative medicine?
Yes, I'm so glad you're asking this question. It's such a beautiful question because it goes against the grain of what we typically do, right? Typically, we wait for a crisis and then we go, uh-oh, there's a crisis, something's wrong. Whereas I think, and maybe this is because of being an alternative medicine practitioner for over 30 years, it's like there's a lot we can do as prevention. It's very Western medicine to wait till symptoms get to a crisis point and then we treat it. You put the Band-Aid, you get the surgery, and I've had surgery. I'm not down on surgery. I'm all about the right tool for the right time. But I think sometimes many of us miss the opportunity to apply tools earlier so that it never has to get to a crisis, you know? And so preventative is exactly what you're doing, I think. If the podcast is something that lights you up and you're doing it for you and you're filling some part of your being, great.
I get to talk to people like you. I mean, this is amazing.
It's awesome, right? So you have this, like, I believe that we all have multiple aspects of ourselves that want to be fed. So I don't really think that we're a monolithic. I think people are complex. We have lots of different aspects, and it's good to feed them, the ones that we want to feed. And so as long as you're feeding aspects of yourself that are yours also, yes, feed the wife, feed the mom, fill those aspects. But what the trouble that I see women hit is when they fill those aspects to the exclusion of filling themselves up too, for themselves, with themselves. When they forget to do that piece also, that's where I think we run into trouble, because resentment builds up. All of a sudden it's right. It's like, oh my God, I'm doing all excuse my language, I'm doing all this stuff for everybody else. I'm a New Yorker. It comes out sometimes.
Yeah, that's damaging to any relationship, whether it is a relationship.
Well, it hurts the relationship. That's the thing.
Yeah, with a child or with a spouse or with a, I'm that type where I'm like, I overgive. I overgive to the point where like I give gifts to people and they're like, oh, you remember when you gave me this? And I'm like, give you what, when? Or I'll go out of my way and doesn't matter if I'm tired, like I'll do this and I'll do that and I'll be a good girl and a good daughter, good wife, good mom. And then I'm like, oh, all of a sudden I have this like resentment bubbling, like, what about me? I want to break free.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
I feel so blessed with everything that I have, and yet I see the incredible value of taking me time guiltless.
Yes, I'm so glad you added that word, because I see that a lot with moms is they struggle with guilt when they do take time. I mean, and also entrepreneurs too, we can get so wrapped up in our businesses that if we step away from the business, if we don't answer the client for half a day or something, there's, because we're at the spa getting a massage or something, we can get guilty. We can guilt ourselves around stuff like that. And I think you said it right. Like, no, it's important to take that time guilt-free, recognizing that by doing that, we come back to the important relationships in our lives with more to give. Because when we're giving from an empty cup, that's why the resentment starts, is because we're giving actually of our own life force. But when we take time to fill ourselves up, then we can give from the extra.
We need to take the time to stare into the eye of a whale, whatever this whale is for you. If it's an art class that will elevate your sense of consciousness, whether it is to take a walk on the beach, ground and hug a tree, whatever it is for you, it's so important. Dance, do a news diet. That's guilt too. Because if I don't,
That can make guilt.
oh yeah, yeah. Like if I like for me right now with what's going on with the war in Israel, like the illusion was if I'm not going to consume all this very very sad, horrific, atrocious content, I'm not a part of. It's almost like a survivor guilt, but it doesn't serve anyone if I don't take care of myself. And so every woman that is now a mom or in a relationship or all into her business and doesn't take any time for herself needs to take a little break and think about it and listen to what you're saying. Because what, when women come to you, what's the problem? What's the crisis?
Well, the crisis is usually something like, and it's kind of what you said. It's like, I feel blessed. I have this great life. So much in my life is going super well. why am I like hating it, right? Like, what's wrong with me? Like, something has to be wrong with me. I'm resenting my husband, or I want to quit the business, or whatever the problem is that's showing up. And it's always a question to me of like, okay, hang on. Let's not do anything rash. Let's not take action too quickly, because when we take action out of that desperate, like something has to change, I have to change something. When we take action out of that kind of desperate place, it's not going to necessarily be the right action, because it hasn't really come from the depths. It's coming from up here, from the panic. And you don't typically want to make big life decisions from a position of panic.
It's reactive and not proactive.
It's reactive and not proactive. Beautifully said. Yes. And so my invitation is always to go deeper in and excavate. Well, who am I? What do I want now? What is working? What isn't working? I've created this work that I call activating the passion body. And what the passion body is your deepest, it's like your deepest energy and motivation. It's very close to the soul. It's a lot like an inner compass. And I specifically call it passion body because as women, we have been taught in many cultures around the world that our passion, our desire needs to be controlled, needs to be tempered. It's too volatile. It's too dangerous. This is the message that many of us have gotten.
And by the way, it's not even from society. Sometimes you get it from your loved ones. Sometimes I even get it from my husband when I'm a little too much over the top.
Too much, right. Yeah, exactly. We get that. And the thing is that our passion and our desire in itself is not too much. What happens is when we don't know how to direct it in a clear and healthy way, sometimes it comes out sideways and creates wreckage. That happens.
Right? It's like a fire.
It's a fire, right.
Yeah, it can be good or bad, depending on how you channel it, I guess.
100%. Like a fire can keep us alive, because it keeps us warm in the night, but it can also burn down our house. like, and this is really at the core of us, this fire. And I'm very committed to helping women free that fire in a directed and healthy way, not a burn the whole thing down kind of way. And so what has to happen first is really to go inside and remember and connect with, well, what does light me up, and what am I really about, and what do I care about, and what do I want, and so that's a lot of the work I end up doing. And I have this quiz where I show people their passion body archetypes. So I have these 5 archetypes that women tend to fall in. We all have some aspect of it, but there's a dominant one typically. And like any kind of archetypal image, there's a light side and a shadow side. There's the strength that we get from that archetype, and then there's the shadow or the pitfall, the place that it might, You want to hear what the archetypes are?
Yeah, so I'm very curious.
Yeah, okay.
I'm redesigning my website, and I did a photo shoot in Costa Rica, and I look very different in every photo and with different outfits, because every outfit represents an archetype. It's based on the Jungian archetypes.
Yeah, cool. God, I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, so I'm curious to know what did you develop around archetypes?
Yeah, so I developed these 5 archetypes based on what I mostly see, the types of women who tend to come to me. And the first I call the mystic priestess. So she's super connected to spirit. She has deep access to her intuition. And the shadow is that she's not always so great at functioning on the planet.
Grounded.
Right. She can, right? Like sometimes there's difficulty with money, or there's, difficulty with having really good sex because she's not willing to be in her lower chakras, right?
All in the upper chakra.
All up here.
When I lived in LA, I did Nam yoga, and we did a lot of breath work.
Oh, yeah, that'll.
And when I did all this breath work, I was not grounded at all. I couldn't function. I couldn't really focus. I was like, ah. a lot of the time.
Yes. And we can get a little bit state addicted to that because it's an amazing feeling.
It's nice, and it's also an escape. You don't need to deal with anything because you think good, it's gonna be good, you're connected, light, and that. But we are, like Dr. Wayne Dyer said, we are physical beings having a human experience. And while you're in this body, which is a gift, and your soul came to this earth to experience this body, you actually want to experience everything, all your emotions, the good, the bad, and really like be here in your body, feeling all of it.
100%. Exactly. So that's really what the mystic priestess needs to do is she needs to embody. She needs to come and not giving anything up of her connection. It's just an expansion of her ability to be in the 3D world also. The second archetype I call the survivor savior. So this is the person who's come through really difficult stuff, typically in childhood, like very painful, difficult things. And she's developed the capacity to sit with other people and be with other people in a deep way who are suffering. You know, she might be somebody who works with addicts or who works with the homeless or, you know, works with elderly people who are dying. She might be a death doula. You know, it's the kind of person who's got the strength to go into places that other people fear. However, the shadow for her is, or the danger for her is that she can stay so identified with her identity as a survivor that it prevents her from actually expanding and thriving in her own life.
It actually creates a victimhood.
Right, exactly. She stays stuck there.
Yeah, every time, like I spoke with lots of people in the last 8 years on this podcast.
Amazing.
And the people that thrive are the people that take responsibility for where they are, for everything they experience, the good and the bad, that are able to own whatever happens. And I had some people who've been through really terrible things, really, 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 really terrible things. But yet they own it. They forgave, they took charge, and they were able to rise and not identify with, I am a survivor, I survive it, but I also am able to thrive. Expand that identity so the shadow does not control it, right?
100%. Yep, that's exactly what the survivor savior needs to do. And she can be anywhere, you know, when she takes the quiz, she can be anywhere on that spectrum, right? But that's the work that she needs to do. The third one I call the truth warrior. She has real depth of insight and a sharp blade, right? So this is the kind of person who can cut through the bullshit and see the truth. I'm a truth warrior. But what she has to learn.
Well, you're also a New Yorker. It's a part of it.
Well, I'm also a New Yorker. Yeah, right. Good
You're a
point.
New Yorker. You got to tell
I'm a
it.
New Yorker.
You got to say it as
we
it is.
tell it like it is.
You don't have
I
an
don't fuck
accent,
around.
though, whatsoever.
No, I don't. I don't. My family is mostly not from the U.S., so I have a very kind of mixed up accent. But and so the truth warrior, the danger for her, the shadow side for her is she can get so, again, derive such identity from being the person that sees the most truth in the room, is that she doesn't always remember to get consent or even find out if people want to hear her truth, right? There can be a tendency to kind of smack people with stuff they're not ready or even haven't invited you to share, right? So
Yeah, that can shock people.
that can shock people. And so she really needs to learn calibration, what I call calibration.
Yeah, in Kabbalah they say truth without mercy. It's not a good thing. You gotta have truth. You gotta have mercy. You gotta calibrate. You can't just say like truth with all that judgment. It just can hurt people.
Exactly.
It doesn't create the change you wanna have in the world if people feel bad around you because you speak the truth.
Oh man, you are nailing it. That's exactly right. It does not. You know, nothing changes. This is one of the things I say all the time to my clients and whenever I speak. Nothing changes in an atmosphere of shame.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that the truth warrior has to learn is to get consent and to actually find out how much someone is willing to hear or wants to hear before you start sharing your brilliance, And I love that. It's beautiful. I love that the Kabbalah says that because, yes, truth with mercy, that's the thing. Truth with kindness, truth with care.
I have to tell you that I had times in my life where I had a lot of truth without mercy. Like I'm very sharp. I see a lot of things. I see more than I say. Sometimes I say too much. But I feel like as I'm growing up, I'm learning to calibrate, maybe.
Spoken like a truth warrior. I wonder if you are. I wonder if you took the quiz. I wonder if that would be you. Because that's exactly the thing.
Yeah.
The fourth one, I call her the dragon woman. So she's the woman who has really learned she's perfectionistic. I mean, each of the archetypes has an aspect that could get stuck in a kind of perfectionism. I speak to that a lot because I tend to work with high achieving, powerful women, and there can tend to be this perfectionist side. But the particular
Dragon woman sounds really exciting to me. Dad.
Yeah, the dragon woman is she's a lot of fun. She has learned to really source identity from excellence. So she's great at everything she does. She's usually the most competent woman in any room that she walks into. And she gets shit done. She's very, a lot of entrepreneurs are dragon women. It's funny, a lot of the women joining my community are dragon women because they're entrepreneurs. And so I see a correlation often between a woman who has that kind of drive to excel, to succeed, to make stuff happen. She's often a dragon woman. And the downside or the danger for her is that a couple things. One, when people disappoint her, she tends to withdraw. She gets cold. She can become a bit of an ice queen and shut people out. And she doesn't have a lot of patience for her own imperfection or anyone else's imperfection.
So far, I have number one, number two, number three, and number four.
Right, that's what I mean. We have aspects of all of them, but when you take the quiz, it's kind of like you go with the questions, you go with,
I want to take the quiz now, but we are in the middle of an interview.
yeah, I know, right? But we're in the middle of this conversation. You got to take it after we finish. So the thing for the dragon woman is actually to allow herself more vulnerability, right? And to have the willingness to soften and let herself,
Look at the eye of the whale.
yeah, look in the eye of the whale, feel tender, let herself feel the tenderness that's in there somewhere, right? But the tenderness is not always accessible when she's relating with other people. What she tends to lead with.
A lot of time for dragon women, that tenderness is being perceived as weakness. They don't know how to find strength through tenderness, through their feminine.
Yep, exactly. And so that's her work, is to learn the difference between tenderness and weakness because they're not the same thing.
Before that, I want to share with you that the wife of my acupuncturist, she does acupuncture too. They're from China, and she did Chinese astrology on me, and she said that I'm a black dragon.
Ooh, hot. Yeah, that's super cool. I think actually we get along really well because I'm a fire horse.
Oh, cool.
So, and which is like the most fiery of the horse. I think horses and dragons. I would have to look it up, but it's been a minute.
One of my heart totem animal is a black stallion,
Oh God, so beautiful.
and my soul is a deer.
Oh my God, I have a lot of deer. Interesting. Oh, I love that. That's so beautiful. Lately, I've been obsessed with owls. I have an owl nearby, but it's not close enough for me to show you. But they're so wise and they're willing, they see in the dark and they can they see in all directions. They can turn their head completely around and they perceive things in the dark that others don't see. Like that's very much me these days. The last archetype, I call her the heart weaver, and we all know this one.
Oh, I love that.
It's right. She's the one that weaves together. She's like the heart of a community, right? She weaves people together. It's the mom that all the kids come there for the sleepovers, right? Or all the kids go there for the cookies. Or if she's a businesswoman, she's the one organizing the networking, right? She's the one that weaves community and brings people together.
Well, I do that too.
Yeah, I believe you do. I know, I'm so curious to see which one shows up as dominant, but this is what I mean. We all have all these archetypes in us. However, we have a default we tend to go to. The danger, what you described earlier, is actually a heart weaver quality. The shadow side is the overgiving. You described how you tend to overgive and then get resentful. That's a heart weaver thing. And what the heart weaver needs to learn is,
Come on, step all over me. I will give you my all.
that's the heart weaver.
Frick, why have I done that? Why have I done that?
That is her to a T. And for her, she derives so much identity from giving. She has to really work the muscle to learn how to receive and to recognize that she's as deserving of receiving as everyone else is of her giving.
Beautiful.
Those are the archetypes, and the quiz, you would see which one is your dominant one. And then I've also created a podcast that goes deeper into each archetype, the light, the shadow, the challenges they have to work with, etc. I have like a 5-episode podcast devoted to that work that people are welcome to. Maybe you can put the link and people are welcome to listen to that. But
Yeah, I'll put the link in the show notes and also the link to the quiz in the show notes.
And what I'm seeing with that, there's such a power. You already know this, obviously. If you took pictures recognizing different archetypes, you know the power of this.
I'm so excited about my new website. I am so excited.
I'm excited to see it.
I'm like, yeah, it's really interesting. I don't know if people will get that I'm channeling different archetypes, but they will say, "Oh my God, she looks so different."
Right, they'll feel it.
But it's not only different because I wear a costume. It's an energetic
It's energetic.
channeling that archetype.
Exactly, and that's what there's something so powerful when we see ourselves in that. I feel like it unlocks something.
I didn't touch launching that website after the photo shoot for months and months on end because when I looked at those photos, they were the future me that I want to step into, and that it scared me so much that it was just like, okay, great photos, now we're doing nothing. And it took me a while to process to process it and be like, okay, I'm stepping into that. The dragon is awakening.
Exactly. Well, I mean, and you describe such a natural process. Like we all do that because I feel like those of us who pay attention, right? Those of us who actually take a moment to be present and feel into what we want. Maybe we are connected to our guides, maybe not. You don't have to necessarily know that you're talking to your guides or not. But those of us who have an intuition, like, oh, I want to step into XYZ. I want to, I'm expanding in this way. Very often, of course, that expansion is going to bump into our current self. And our current self is going to go, ah! Like the subconscious goes like, no, that's going to change everything. No, stay here, stay safe.
Who do you think you are? You're not good enough. You don't belong.
Exactly.
Who do you think you are? You don't deserve this.
People will see right through you.
Why you and not somebody else?
Yeah, oh God, all of that. And so this actually brings us, it's another aspect of the work that I do with people is aligning the subconscious mind with the conscious desires and goals, right? So, because to use your example, which you shared so beautifully, there's the future selves that you embodied in the photo shoot, and then there's the current self that's like, whoa, that's going to totally rock my world. Like, can I even hold that? And then slows down the process.
Can I show up? For me, it was also, can I show up in the world this way? I'm going to be so judged. I'm gonna be blah blah blah. I would like tell I wrote a whole like 10 series book about like what's gonna happen if I step into my power, which was negative. And then I'm slowly like just under like letting go of that story and connecting to a new story. So for you to allow women to connect, because every time we have two conflicted beliefs in our subconscious mind, we can't move forward.
That's right.
How do you collapse those two into the desired outcome?
Yeah, I do. It's a work that I'm certified in that's called Summit Transformation, and it specifically does exactly that. So, in a nutshell, there's the thing we want to step into, the thing that where we're headed. Typically, it will muscle test weak because we don't really believe it yet. And I take people through a series of exercises, and then it tests strong. It actually builds the neural pathway to the new belief. And once you have the neural pathway built, it becomes possible. But in a nutshell, basically, we work with the belief that somebody wants to have, or the act, or the thing that they want to have happen. You know, I have 10 clients, 20 clients, whatever the desired thing is. And I basically, through these brain exercises, help their brain believe that that's true and actually align with that thing as if it already exists. And then you start taking the actions, because as we know, anybody who's into manifesting stuff, you can't just want a thing. You have to actually take action in the real world to make to do the thing. So it's a combination of that. Then we come up with the action plan that's actually aligned with that belief, and then it happens. So for a very simple example, if somebody last week in my community, one of the 2 calls per month is this work to align the brain with what they want and collapse, that dissonant belief. And so, for example, there was a woman, she wanted to lose 5 pounds. Like the last 5 pounds was stubborn, and she wanted to move more. So we aligned for a goal of walking 5 days a week. And she has been getting out before work each day and taking pictures of the dawn and having these beautiful, because she lives in a really beautiful place with a view of the sunrise. So she's having this experience of beauty that's now like she didn't even anticipate. But because she's going out and walking each morning, she's now, when she goes to work, she feels better at work because she's given herself this experience of beauty. So instead of being like, I have to exercise, me, it's like all of a sudden she's moving because she wants to move, because it brings beauty into her space, and she feels better all day because she gave her that, so it's like we built the pathway to that possibility, and now she's actually doing it. Whereas in the past, it was like, I know I should walk, but I don't do it. You see, is that a good example?
It's a beautiful example. And I think that through this spiritual expansion, the emotional weight is falling off, not through the physical. A lot of time we hold our weight mentally because it's emotional. It's almost like the body's holding on to something. But for her to experience this expansion every day is allowing her to let go of what she doesn't need. She doesn't need that tension anymore because she experienced beauty every morning. So it sounds amazing.
Yeah, and it's such a different perspective than how we typically approach trying to do the things that we feel we should do or that we want. Exercise is so fraught, like, oh, I have to do, 10,000 steps, and it gets very, and it's just, that's not, willpower is a finite resource. If you're trying to make change in your life through willpower, it's going to fail. Like, willpower is not what is going to make change happen. And so we have to find a deeper spot. And that's always what I'm interested in, is how do we do things that feel good to us and that expand us and grow us and have us live the life that we want to live from a place of beauty, gratitude, generosity, love for self and other people, right? not from discipline. I mean, I'm a disciplined person, but that kind of, I was a disciplined person that was like beating myself all the time to try to be a good girl. And that just, that ship has sailed. That thing died. I can't do it like that anymore. It just feels terrible. And so I want to create a world where, first of all, women are not afraid to age, because as we age, we step into our wisdom, and we have so much to share, and we have so much to offer. And so, like, I live in a space where I want to redefine aging for the modern woman, A. And B, I want us to find those places where we change and grow toward what we want, and not because we're flagellating ourselves or beating ourselves because we don't like what we have currently. I think that's the flip that needs to happen, where we're moving toward instead of trying to get away from. And a lot of magic happens.
Yeah. When women age and sometimes start to feel invisible, they don't get the catcalls, they don't get the attention from the men they used to get. And then they get into a point where they start feeling smaller, invisible. It's a new identity. All of a sudden I'm older. I think it's their job to find their inner passion, to find the radiance in their bodies, to ignite that power. Because you have two choices. You can go with what society is expecting of you, which is something I've never done. Maybe I've
Me
done it for
neither.
a short while. It never worked for me. I was always a rebel, and I've done things that people told me never do it, don't do it, don't do it. I always did it. I followed my heart.
Wow. I love that. I knew I liked you for a reason.
In an older age, because I've done some journeys, some retreats with Sheila Kelly. She does pole dancing and help women connect to their bodies, and we went to some beautiful places. And I've seen women as old as 72 dancing in beautiful, sexy, things that flatter their body, that makes them feel sexy, and have their own dances and connect to their body and sensuality, and they're radiant. And maybe, yeah, at 72, you might not get the catcalls, but it doesn't mean that you have to feel invisible.
Yes, you are singing my song. And in fact, it's really funny because I'm actually not even talking about this part of the work yet. But the next stage of the work is, so when we're young, I call it functioning from the pretty body. We want to be good, we want to get ahead, we care about how we look, we try to look attractive. It's a currency we kind of trade on. So, but at some point, the pretty body stops working, either because we're bored of it or we no longer turn heads like that anymore. We no longer get the catcalls. That's when it's time to activate the passion body, as you just said. We got to activate our passion. And that's the fire. That's our life force.
These women will get catcalls.
Yes! Doesn't matter what you look like.
Or maybe not loud, but
Yes.
they will attract, they will, because when you are so radiant from the inside, you attract. It's like you just attract.
You do. Well, that's what I was going to say. It's like the third stage as we,
When you're attracted to yourself, you attract.
yeah,
When you love yourself, when you're in your body,
it doesn't matter what you look like.
when you're in your wild self,
Yeah, you're beautiful. When you're in that part of yourself, you're beautiful. It doesn't matter what the shell looks like. But the later stage, as we get older, like the woman you're describing, I call that the transition into the radiant body. Like you actually use the language I'm using for this transition from pretty body to passion body to radiant body. That's the possibility that I see for us as we get older, if we choose to awaken, if we choose to open to ourselves, to life, to the depth of the power that we have inside. If we make that choice,
Yeah, I love the stories of like couples in their 80s that are still having hot sex and
Me too.
talk dirty to each other. Like I love this. I love hearing those stories.
I
Like
love that
why not?
too. Why
Why
not?
stop? Why
Why? Yeah.
stop? What you expect us to like knit sweaters and like go hide somewhere? No. Life is good.
Absolutely not. Life is good.
Life is beautiful. Our bodies are beautiful.
Yeah.
Pleasure is good.
Yes. And how lucky we are if we do have the good fortune to grow old. It's a privilege, you know? Not everybody gets to do that. So let's enjoy it and let's with whatever we have, right? Like I spent 10 years, I had very bad chronic pain in my 40s and couldn't walk for 5 years. And I had to have both my hips replaced by the age of 50. I'm 56 now. And even so, like I had so many stories, and I'm going to use a politically incorrect word, but I'm using it about myself, so I hope your listeners are generous. But it's like I had all these stories about who's going to love this crippled woman, right? Like I could not walk a block without crippling pain. And I had some of the best sex of my life during that time. Because you just learn to navigate it. Like, so what? My hips couldn't open, but there was like one position I could still, make it work. And boy, that position felt really good. And so, it didn't matter that I couldn't walk. I could still have sex and I could still dance weirdly. Like walking was hard, but I could still dance. And I think it was the position of where the bone spurs were scraping. I had bone spurs growing on the heads of my femurs, and that's why I had to replace. But anyway, all that to say, I had the stories about who's going to want me. I can't even walk. Like, who's going to... And yeah, plenty of people wanted me, and I met my now husband during that time. And we've been together 8 years, and we've been through 2 major surgeries and, all sorts of, like my mother's decline and death. Like we've been through really horrific and difficult circumstances together. And the love between us is so deep and strong. And he's a lot younger than me, like 13 years younger than me. And it just works. It just works.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So I'm here to say you can have it.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
What are your 3 top tips to living a stellar life?
First, cultivate a connection with yourself and your nervous system. Like really get to know your own nervous system and learn how to be gentle and be present with yourself. We all get triggered and we all go cuckoo sometimes, and don't beat yourself up about that. That just happens. How quickly can you come back to your centered, loving self? Second, take care of the basics. Like, as I like to say, in my typical blunt fashion, sleeping, eating, pooping, fucking, moving. Do those things, right? Make sure you're sleeping, eating, pooping, moving, and fucking. And if any of those things are not happening or working well for you, do something about it. Get some help. That's number 2. Because when the basics aren't working, it makes everything else hard. And when the first one isn't working, like you're not able to be kind to yourself and loving toward yourself in the ups and the downs, that's where it's even more important. It makes everything else harder. And I would say the third is develop a practice of appreciating the good. Though, especially if you're a growth-oriented person, there can be such a tendency to focus on where you want to grow and how you want to expand and what you don't have yet and where you're headed, that you can forget to appreciate all the good that is available to you right here, right now. Even if the circumstances are not how you want it, you can still find a few moments, even if you're in a bomb shelter, there can be the kindness in the eyes of a child. That's a moment, right? You can find a moment to appreciate, a moment of connection or a moment of wow, this person shared their food with me, whatever it is, I think the more we learn to appreciate, I actually have clients write that stuff down because it can be so easy to forget that anything good happened in a day, especially if we're in a depressive episode, because we all tend to go up and we all tend to go down. And that would be the third one, is even in the down, find something to appreciate. Yourself, the way someone has been with you, the fact that you have a roof over your head. I grew up going to Venezuela. My family on my father's side is Venezuelan. Like, we didn't have water much of the day. They would turn the water on in the morning for a few hours and on at night. So living in the United States, like, I give thanks that, now I live in Mexico and I still give thanks. Like, wow, I open the tap and water comes out. How cool is that? Like, I most of us are so entitled that we just don't even think that that is cool. But, then you travel anywhere in the world and you realize, oh shit, my life is amazing. So those would be my top three.
Beautiful. Where can people find you and take the quiz?
Yes. So the quiz is available at yourpowerquiz.com. Go there and take the quiz. And then in the follow-up emails, there'll be a link to the podcast that expands on the quiz. So do listen to that as well, because there's just a lot of really juicy stuff in the podcast too.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being here with us. And thank you for all your wisdom. And here I'm recapping. Marie Elizabeth, you said to connect with yourself and your nervous system, to take care of the basics and appreciate the good. Is that right?
That is correct.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I loved our conversation where we met, and I just so enjoyed unfolding more here now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, listeners. Remember, connect with yourself and your nervous system. Take care of the basics. Appreciate the good and have a stellar life. This is Orion. Till next time.